So the myth of a perfect life after awakening or after enlightenment is very persistent. We are led to believe that life will become perfect, perfectly blissful, perfectly pain-free, perfectly joyful. Not only will this be a feeling state that we imagine to inhabit constantly without wavering, but we also may imagine that the conditions, the circumstances, the details of our life will be perfect, whatever perfection may mean to us. We may have a kind of backlog of images, stories, particularly from traditional cultures where the enlightened one becomes a teacher, becomes a guru, and all their needs, their material needs, their human needs are taken care of. They don't have to go down to the store to do their shopping. They don't have to navigate traffic or busy streets. They may not even have to do their own laundry, their own washing up. Everything is kind of taken care of. We may even imagine, by looking at modern day spiritual teachers, that they live in some lofty situation, lofty environment, or simply that everything takes place easily and effortlessly. And perhaps prior to awakening, the self really wants this. It wants a pain-free life. It wants an easy life. It wants a comfortable life. It perhaps wants an elevated life, whatever that may mean to you. Again, if these ideas, if these beliefs, if these imaginations, if these expectations remain unexamined from the perspective of the self, they do become a kind of carrot that is dangled, that keeps us on the hamster wheel of seeking the perfect life. And in that seeking a perfect life, there is an avoidance, a denial, a turning away from what is actually here. And enlightenment, awakening, freedom cannot be found, cannot be discovered anywhere other than here. Right in the midst of the bare bones, the bare fact of your circumstances, your experience, your life. That's the doorway. The doorway is not in some idea of perfection. It's right here where things are, where you are. So what happens then to life, the life that is experienced through you, your life? What happens to your life after awakening? if it doesn't change at all, and perhaps there are challenging circumstances now, or uncomfortable circumstances, or limiting circumstances. Well, if nothing changes, then what's the point? Is there such a thing as perfection? Again, we have to surf the paradox from the perspective of the self, from the one who is seeking, from the one who is on the path. We must abandon all hope of perfection. We must abandon all expectations of a better life, because just like the idea of a better self that gets created after awakening, it is an imagination set up by the self to keep the destination always in perpetual future. And this is not how it is. This is not the doorway. The doorway is here now, exactly as you are, however broken you are, however broken your life is. Whether circumstances are to your liking or not, it's right here. So first of all, from the perspective of self, to abandon all ideas of perfection. Because life, which includes the world as we see it, as we experience it, can never be perfect from the perspective of the self. We live in different cultures, different nations, different situations, different backgrounds, different circumstances. On that level, on a global level, on a collective level, it cannot be perfect. It cannot be perfect according to the self. 7 billion, or however many there are, individuals cannot all have a perfect life according to the perspective of the self. Whether that perfection is that everyone is at peace, everyone is loving, everyone lives an abundant life, a joyful life, an easeful life. We live in a world of duality. We live in a world of polarity. We live on a certain level in a world of free will, in which each individual takes or doesn't take responsibility for their own environment, inner and outer environment. So from the perspective of the self that is seeking perfection externally, this is a fantasy. So then perfection in our own lives, what does that mean? To have more, to be more, to do more, to be happy, to be comfortable, to have no stress, to have no challenges, to meet no obstacles, to have everything I need and want. From the perspective of the self, another imagination that is somehow married up with this idea of awakening, as if it would turn us into some super being, some superpower. So what is perfection? What actually takes place after awakening? What changes, if anything, if the circumstances don't change? If life and its ebb and flow, its yin and yang, its push and pull, its dark and light, still continues, because the nature of life is yin and yang, birth, death. polarity, then what does change, if anything? What changes, and this is fundamental, is that resistance to what is comes to an end. Resistance to what is here, resistance to my experience, this experience, comes to an end. There is no longer an argument with what is. This changes everything. Because if there is no resistance, then we are not in opposition with life. And we are not separate from life. The sense of self that stands outside of life, trying to control it, or deny it, or reject it, or take possession of it, this comes to an end. And when this comes to an end, yes, there's a kind of perfection. The perfection is that what is here and what is being experienced is life itself, however it shows up. And there's a great beauty or preciousness in this. There's a great richness in this. When the poor me, the separate poor me, the victim me, the one who is arguing, this shouldn't be happening, I shouldn't be feeling this, comes to an end, then it's like the casing around the self that kept us in this tight knot, in this contraction, comes undone. Therein lies the perfection. Everything, everything, the whole sweet, bittersweet journey of life, including death, birth and death in so many ways. Daily we experience birth and death. Moment by moment we experience birth and death because nothing can be held onto. The whole journey becomes a beautiful experience of perfection. It's a very different paradigm of perfection than the self that wants its circumstances to be just so that I feel safe, so that I feel comfortable. Safety and comfort are not from our circumstances. They're not based, they're not drawn, derived from circumstances. Safety and comfort are inherent in the realization of beingness. Because no one, nothing can take that away from you. No circumstance changes the integrity of that, the wholeness of that, the sanctuary of that. So on a human level, the trajectory of your life continues. But there is no resistance to that. There is no argument with that. A great peace, a great acceptance, a deep acceptance, and even enjoyment can come, does come. It's a sense of grace. Depending on the individual vehicle that you are, and whether awakening as it's embodied undoes subconscious beliefs that may have been carried about not enoughness, whether that's financial or to do with relationship or companionship or purpose in life, whatever aspect of life it is. If awakening, the light of awakeness, that open space, reveals some of these subconscious beliefs which may still be here, and in that revelation there's a kind of undoing of those beliefs naturally, because the inherent wholeness that has been revealed through awakening is known, is embodied. So how can you also carry a subconscious belief of limitation? So it could be that that light, yeah, that wholeness, gently or not so gently, kind of demolishes that belief. It's like part of the scaffolding comes undone more and more and more. If that takes place, then it's likely that circumstances can also change. If you perhaps were in a job that felt limiting or disempowering or has conflict in it of some kind, that is likely to change. And you may find a new trajectory opens up to you. Again, this could be to do with work, with purpose, with creativity, with finances, with relationships, any aspect of your everyday life, your day-to-day human life. So circumstances can change. But whether they change or not, the deep peace, the deep enjoyment of what is primary. Very often also, when awakening is embodied, and if there is no agenda, no idea of a perfect life, well, now I can be the spiritual teacher, now I can be the whatever it might be. When there is no agenda, and there is enjoyment right here, whatever is here, whatever the circumstances, from that place, should it be what I call your destiny, you may find new inspiration. Again, whether that's creative inspiration or some aspect of your life. That inspiration comes from deep within. It really comes from the intelligence of life itself, because you're no longer in opposition to life. So life may inform you, go here, do this. You may meet somebody, or you may read something, or something points you to something, because there's a great availability in you. And then life, in terms of the outer circumstances, can change dramatically. Or not. Again, to have an idea of what may change on the external is a great impediment to the true peace, to the true joy that is right here where you are. So again, this paradox, are we examining from the perspective of the self, or are we examining from the perspective of no self? Because again, after awakening, when the self is not in the agenda position, when the self is not seeking something for itself, when life, yeah, or the inner nudges you, there's no more resistance to that, because from the perspective of the self, we like to stay in our comfort zone. We may say, oh, I want to do this, or I want to have this, but actually there are so many subconscious psychological beliefs from our conditioning that keep us limited and keep us in our comfort zone. So even though we may consciously want to change some aspect of our lives, on a conditioned level, something keeps us limited. So we have this inner conflict, inner division. After awakening, it's possible that there is no more resistance to anything. So there's a great, almost inner silence that is informed by the intelligence of life, that comes through the depth of being, the innermost being. And it's possible that you give yourself to that. Go here, do this, this, without agenda or expectation. And the door opens to something that is actually beyond your comfort zone, or would have been beyond your comfort zone when you were enmeshed as the self or identified with the self. And this is what I call selfless action. And then you can be surprised. Oh, the scenery has changed. The environment has changed somewhat. But it doesn't come from the place of, I need it to be so in order to feel comfortable, in order to feel safe, in order to feel powerful, whatever. So primary, first, is the letting go of all expectation of anything to be different. What if you could be free right now, right here, exactly where you are? What if there is perfection in the imperfection? It's really a letting go of all of mind's ideas, all duality, all polarity, perfect, imperfect, having, not having, and so on and so on. We go beyond polarity. We go beyond duality.